This episode is brought to you by PCL. PCL is a group of independent construction companies that operates throughout Canada, the United States, the Caribbean, and Australia. As one of the largest contracting organizations in North America, PCL completes more than $11 billion in work annually, building projects that shape communities. The company's 100% employee ownership model fuels a culture of commitment for clients in the buildings, civil infrastructure, heavy industrial, and solar markets. PCL's teams are proud to build with and learn from Indigenous communities in a number of places in this land. Learn more and watch PCL build at PCL.com.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Roots and Hoots, a podcast project produced by the Legacy of Hope Foundation. Since 2020, we have been gathering, laughing, learning hard truths, and sharing in community conversations with Indigenous peoples across Turtle Island. Each episode, we learn something new, and we're excited to be sharing this journey with you. Roots and Hoots is about connecting with and celebrating Indigenous peoples' contributions to their fields of study, work, and cultures. We also speak with allies who share how they are furthering the work of reconciliation in Canada. To learn more about the Legacy of Hope Foundation and the work that we do, please visit legacyofhope.ca.
In this episode, host Gordon speaks with filmmaker, showrunner, producer, and founder of Stories First Productions, Leena Minifie. Leena is a digital storyteller who speaks about her work in media, focusing on some of her projects including British Columbia: An Untold History, and her latest documentary, The Good Canadian. The Good Canadian is a hallmark of Canada and a must-watch for all Canadians, as well as anyone who thinks they know the real Canada. By exposing the truth, Minifie and her writing, directing, and producing partner on this project, David Papperny, present a map to facing these issues, offer a pathway forward for reconciliation, and frame the opportunity in becoming the Good Canadian. The Good Canadian is available through APTN, CBC Gem, and links to the film's website can be found in our episode show notes. Please enjoy this insightful discussion.
Hello and welcome to another podcast on Roots and Hoots. I'm your host, Gordon Spence, and our guest today is Leena Minifie. Hello, Leena, and welcome. How are you today?
Hi, Gordon. Doing great. How are you doing?
We're doing good. Maybe we can just start by you telling us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and your First Nation. If you're First Nation, I think you are anyway. And tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so my name is Leena Minifie. I am Gispidwada, Killer Whale Clan from the House of Weedali, because we go by our houses, and Gitxaala, which is the clan. It's an island and a series of islands and part of the mainland in the Prince Rupert area between Prince Rupert and Haida Gwaii.
Yeah,
On the coast, and uh with Smalyak speaking people, and we speak Smalyak on either side of the border. So we're right near the Alaska Zero line of the
yeah,
border. And I my family's still there, my blood relations are still there, but Prince Rupert is the heart, like it's the major city where like school and work is. So my family's been there for a while since my grandmother, and then Kitimat is my dad's side. So all my family is also in Kitimat on my Caucasian British side.
yeah, yeah. I've been to Prince Rupert. It's a very beautiful place, and we were also in Terrace, which is not too
Yeah.
far from there inland. And
Yeah, I've lived in all those places.
yeah, I've always found that fascinating BC First Nations people. That part of the Canada has always fascinated me, and I've always wondered about the languages. And because the BC First Nations people have a slight, well, I wouldn't say slightly, I'd say very different, unique sound, and your writing system is totally different also.
Yeah.
Uh, but in terms of your cultures, I think you're very similar. But are the languages different?
The languages are different. So the languages, there's about 30, I think 30, technically 37 that are not sleeping languages in BC. We have 200 nations, which is a lot.
Oh,
I think some of them
yeah,
are actually split up villages, right? And I mean, our geography is so fascinating too. So we have every single ecosystem in the all of the country located in one province.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
have everything from desert to rainforest to tundra in one province.
Okay. I always thought it was
To like
all
hide.
mount.
So we have everything.
Yeah.
All the
That,
ecosystems are. It's a pretty large province, but what we also have is like a ton of mountains and valleys and rivers and oceans, and so that
yeah.
divides. Our nations are a lot tinier because we had to only limited amounts of places that are
Yeah.
live like can support small amounts of people, right? Except for when you get to the prairie, like the northeastern part, it looks like the prairies.
Right.
So your question is about the languages. So there's about 37. My our language, Somaliach, it is spoken by less than 100 folks. The person that was counting like stopped counting because it was more of like a loss count, you know. But
Yeah.
it's changed for the children and high schoolers back at home since when I was there, because now you can take it uh, all the way through and college university level now as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
But we our language is not there's like in the interior of BC, there's a language that goes all the way down to the US, Athabascan. So there's some languages in that goes all the way down from Northwest Territories, Tsilhqot'in, and then goes all the way to Navajo.
Wow.
So they can understand each other. But ours is not anywhere found anywhere else in the world. We have some of the most original languages in the coastal area that is not related to anywhere else in the world.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, and was talking to an elder from who spent a lot of time in BC.
Hmm.
She's from Manitoba, and she had mentioned that it's there was a story that she'd heard that the BC coastal people traveled to the Hawaiian Islands
Hmm.
years and years and years ago, and
Yeah.
the Hawaiian people are descendants of the people from BC. Have you heard that?
It's kind of vice versa on that one. So the historical prevalence of canoes, and we were seafaring people, right? And we had really gigantic boats. If you can imagine, our dugout canoes were like
Yeah.
when we used to have old growth were gigantic. They could fit like not just 8 people, they could fit like 40, 50. So we were all seafaring people. So there is a connection for trade routes between the Kalakamali people, so Hawaiian, the Coast Salish, the Cowichan, or like the Squamish here, and probably on the Chinook trail as well, because the Chinook language went up and down the coast. But
Yeah.
the Kanaka Mali people landed in Vancouver and set up an actual village. So they were because they were the best seafaring people in the world at the time. So if you were actually a boat person, even if you were British or Japanese or Chinese, you'd have a Hawaiian navigating on your boat because they were the best
Wow.
readers of the weather and readers of the navigation of the stars. So it was like it would be like if you're in the future, it would be like, Star Trek, you'd have like that one engineer, that one person who was dealing with all of
Right. Yeah.
that. So the Hawaiians were always on everybody's boats because they were the best at that job. And
Yeah.
when they started to come over here for logging, and they kind of landed because there was work here. There's lots of work because you have to use the boats in order to do the resource trade here. And they end up intermarrying with the Squamish people, the Squamish people.
Was the Squamish people? Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. Also, with regards to, well, on a different matter, different topic, how does your identity shape your work in media and digital storytelling?
That's a
Um,
good question. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today at all, and I wouldn't be involved in media or film without uh, the huge influence of TV and radio, and letting and really understanding when I was young that my family wasn't represented on the television. So
mm,
I used to love ingesting like American TV and 1980s and 90s. I used to listen to the radio all the time. I was an only child with my parents, so I used to just ingest a lot of media, and I knew like there's a lot of indigenous media folks who grew up on cowboy and Indian movies. I actually didn't really like them because I knew that we were different. I kind of felt like, oh, those aren't we don't live in TV. That's not us. Like they don't
Yeah,
we're not like that. We don't I don't have I've never seen a, never seen horses on the islands. So
yeah, that's right.
so I just felt like there was nothing that
No
represented us.
connection.
So
Yeah.
no, and so I started to like make short films and stuff when I was 19. So my first city was Edmonton and I went to college there when I was like 17 and had a lot of culture shock, but also I hung out with a lot of prairie folks and Cree folks, and I started to get like interested in, what was happening in the prairies, and I started to like volunteer for media and film and short film and get involved in a media company I just called up. And I started to like I think I met Nathaniel Arcan at that point when I was doing short films. And I got into film and then I met um the APTN was starting, like it had just been open for a year, and I met all the head folks of APTN, and they're like, if you're really interested in this, you should go to our film school. So I did. I saved up money for a year and a half, and then I went to APTN's 1 year program at Capilano College, which is now university, and is a 4 year program now. So, I mean, the whole purpose to study with Indigenous media storytellers at the time, which I was really privileged, the people I learned from who are professors at Cap, you were the very first trailblazing media people in the entire country.
Mm-hmm.
I got to study under them. And now I worked with all my heroes pretty much now, except for maybe a couple. So that was the purpose was to offer a look into Indigenous lives, how we are as people, contemporary issues, what we're doing today, not being stuck in the past. So those things all formed my world.
Who were some of your heroes?
Oh my God, there's so many.
Just name
I
a
mean,
couple.
a couple. Well, I got to my like Jordan was my writing teacher, who's like worked on North of 60. I got to work recently up to now. Loretta Todd was my teacher. Dana Claxton, I took art and media under her. I got to get to take a class with Rebecca Belmore, like a Venice Biennale winning artist. Like now, and I got to recently I got to work with Elenise Bombsawin on her box set at National Film
Wow.
Board and releasing that. So I got to
Yeah, that's a real
work with
trailblazer.
her. Yeah.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Ayaya songs are about our histories. Ayaya is an Inuit owned firm that tells our stories in many languages across Canada. They are experts in publishing children's books, usually in syllabics, and they do large multilanguage projects like the reports of the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Commission. If you need help getting your stories into classrooms or homes in Cree, Inuktitut, or other Indigenous languages, check them out at ayaya.ca. That's ayaya.ca. Ayaya is a proud sponsor of the Roots and Hoots podcast.
Yeah. You created Stories First Productions in 2007 to
Yeah.
engage and inform Indigenous and settler audiences. This is so awesome. Please tell us about some of the meaningful projects your team has brought to life.
Yeah, so what's interesting about my company right now is I'm kind of split into two different parallels. So, one part of my company is producing, developing, making projects, and the other part of my company is called impact producing. So, people will come to us with their projects that are made, and we'll find their audience for them and help them get into communities and make sure there's the most eyeballs possible through digital strategy, through grassroots activation, through networking, and through traditional film marketing. So there's a crossover. So I get to work on other people's amazing projects and get them out into the world in a really
Yeah.
meaningful way and connect them. So our audiences plus non-indigenous, plus newcomers and immigrants who are interested in our stories get to see our uh, way of life and our views and our POVs, and then I make things. So there's a couple I've done short films. I just finished doing which is why I think I'm talking today, The Good Canadian, which is the first big idea investigative Indigenous documentary about the ongoing injustices against Indigenous people today in
Yeah,
2025.
yeah.
So, yeah.
We'll get to that in a few minutes, but I want
Yeah.
to ask you, what does decolonization look like in media projects and technology?
Yeah.
And also, is this something you are concerned about for future generations?
It's really interesting. I also was really privileged. I went back to school again in 2008 to the Institute of American Indian Arts. I got to study again with some of my heroes. I got to meet so many of them and take classes. But Dr. Gerald Visner was pretty much the one who influenced me about what decolonizing is or could be. And he's the most prolific writer in all of the Indigenous, I think, communities in the world. He's written like 56 books, I think.
Wow.
And he is from Minnesota, and his family actually, his genealogy is that his family owned the first Indigenous newspaper ever in all of Turtle Island. And so he's been a journalist, and he's a critique, a literature critique. He's a genocide and American studies prof. And he taught me that decolonizing is still that word. I know that we're going to get into semantics here, but decolonizing is still using the word colonizing, which is not what we want to do is like deconstructing. It's like taking a building and taking all the bricks down, but what do you have done after if you've deconstructed something? All you have is rubble. So
Yeah,
he taught me the concept of re-indigenizing, which is a different way. So if you have something that's deconstructing or decolonizing, like you could tear it down, but what do you replace it with? And re-indigenizing is actually inserting your own value system, your own traditions, going back to traditional thinking, your values, your
yeah.
community, and how do you rebuild something that actually looks more similar to
Hmm.
what you want to see in the world as opposed to taking down the colonial structure.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
that's,
think they go hand in hand. I think what you're talking about.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So re-indigenizing media to me means absolutely breaking apart the military structure of films because we do have a military structure on set. It's a pyramid. The producer and director are on top, everybody's
Hmm.
below. Shit rolls downhill. People treat each other quite badly in military sets. So what we have done, and obviously with the Indigenous Screen Office and protocols, and what I've done, I teach classes about how to implement protocols within um, their set. So whether it's documentary or scripted or investigative or like a reality series, something that's, more lifestyle, is you can bring in those values. Like, how do you represent your culture? How do you bring in community and bond people together? How do you tell the heads of each of the departments, like, what is appropriate and not appropriate to do if you're shooting in a First Nation? Like, how do you take those First Nations rules when you're on their land and you're moving so fast? Sometimes you're going to 9 different areas when you're shooting a TV show. Like, how do you incorporate and make sure that those rules are still reflected and grounded within? And how do you make sure that the First Nations people on set are safe, especially when you're dealing with certain material or certain subject matter? So I have like these huge plans that I've implemented into the projects that people have hired me for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were the showrunner on the docuseries British Columbia,
Yeah.
An Untold Story. What do you hope your audiences from across Canada can take away from the series as a whole?
Well, it was fascinating. Like Gordon, I was so lucky to be do I worked on that all during the pandemic and then Bones of Crows a year on the pandemic. But we did that show for about 3.5 years, and it's a 4-part series. And it just kind of came on the heels of Canada 150, and Canada 150 had did a bunch of documentaries that just kind of looked at white people coming in and discovering this place, the discover like how
Yeah.
the idea like it's empty and we discovered it. So we turned that concept on its head with the whole department I worked with and research, and me and the other researcher Jen too, we looked up about 200 different stories that nobody really knew about. 40 of those stories made it in the series on screen, and 160 of those untold stories made it into the digital teaching component on knowledgenetwork.ca. So, we learned, like, we were researching for 3 years. So uh, we started to like change people's concepts about what happened in BC, how people were here. The most fascinating thing I think is that we found out that Chinese and Japanese people, there was actually logs about sailing and reaching these waters before James Cook. We couldn't fit that in because we only could cover 200 years, but there was some fascinating things about the exchange between South Asian, Chinese, Japanese, Chinese people, and indigenous people, like where we intersected,
Hmm.
that nobody really talks about because we weren't always just revolving our lives and centering Caucasian folks in our world, although they ended up being dominant and taking, like, Trutch ended up taking 97% of our land away, just arbitrarily. But we had this relationship with other people who were different, who spoke different languages, and we found a way to communicate and trade and also keep each other alive, which was
Hmm.
really interesting in hard times.
Well,
So like the Chinese were, this is really, do you want me to explain maybe the Chinese indigenous relationship in
sure.
BC?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So we have lots of mixed people who are also partial Japanese, partial Chinese, partial Vietnamese, in the new, like, contemporary wise. But what was fascinating is that because when the Indian Act came in, we weren't allowed to farm anymore. We weren't allowed to farm or like make food, do agriculture, and then sell that to anybody outside of our, because we were locked, right? We were locked in these kind of gates of like what where the reserve endings were. But the Chinese people were allowed to lease, they weren't allowed to own land because they were racist against them for owning land. So they couldn't buy land and then do their farming. And a lot of these folks have done farming in their own territories when they were in China. So what happened is that a lot of indigenous people ended up leasing the land of the Chinese because then they can sell the food for them because they were
Mhm.
not restricted by those laws. Getting around racist laws in order to survive and to be innovative about how to get around and make sure that everybody had food. Because a lot of times those white stores wouldn't even sell to Chinese or Native folks because you weren't allowed in the store.
Yeah. So much of that went on in the past. Can
Yeah.
you tell us about your latest project, the Good Canadian? How did this come about, and how has the journey been from production to release?
Yeah, the Good Canadian is a long one too. It's 4 years. Like it's like
Four
building,
years?
yeah, to make this one
Wow. Why
film
did it
series.
take so long?
Well, this is the thing. I think people don't realize how much work it takes. Sometimes documentaries take even 6, 7 years, 8 years, depending on following the characters, right? So, 3.5 and 4 years is actually quite a short turnaround for a feature doc. Maybe like some narrative films are a little bit shorter, like they could be done in 2.5 years or three sometimes, maybe two and a quarter. But being a filmmaker is like being an architect. You can only how long does it take to build a house? So, and how many houses can you build in your entire lifetime?
Yeah.
And for women and indigenous women especially, we don't get to do it all the time. Like it's a very big privilege. Like there was a statistic in 2023 that only 2% of unscripted shows in Canada were directed by indigenous women,
Hmm.
because there's a lot more men doing this kind of work
Yeah.
as well, right? It's like building a house. And we started with development. We went through a couple different phases of development because it changed. So David Paperny, who is my partner in this, is a Oscar nominated, um, uh, an award-winning director. He
Mhm.
retired, so he had a production company. Like I'm starting it. I'm mid-range now, but he is 67 years old. He had a company and it had three different head offices, and he retired. But he came out of retirement because he wanted to make sure that this film was made, and he had met Cindy Blackstock and was really impressed by her. And
Yeah.
Cindy challenged him to say, like, what has settlers done in this society? Like, we have 5% of Indigenous people and 95% Canada are not Indigenous people. She's like, what are the non-Indigenous people done in order to make sure that genocide's not happening in Canada? What is their story? I challenge you to take a look at the other people besides Indigenous people and tell their story. Like, who's culpable? Who was complicit?
Hmm.
Who is still complicit in bad things happening to our communities? So me and David was match made with me with a funder, told him to meet me. And really, some really close people in the industry just worked with me on British Columbia Untold History. and they match made us and said, you guys need to meet each other. And we got along and we said, we want to do this thing where we turn the camera around and we look at white people, we look at non-Indigenous people, we ask them, what are you seeing in your jobs? There's over 100,000 jobs that intersect with Indigenous lives, whether that be at our birth, that will be social workers and in jails and the justice system and education and health. They intersect with our lives, but they affect our lives. So can we find these people and ask them what they're witnessing, what do they see, and what they have done to actually stave off casualties and fatalities from happening to our people? And we got a lot of brave people. I mean, we cast out a pretty big way. We had a research team. We had a Pulitzer Prize winning Indigenous journalist who was on our research team. We had five and people who are award winning journalists on our research team.
Wow. Yeah.
We probably cast our net out to 60 different folks, and we end up casting 12 who agreed to like come with us all the way and be on camera, and they're very brave. Um, and we end up trying to tell the story of how our lives are intersected with non-native folks. And the whole
Yeah.
point of this film was to turn the lens on truth and power, to turn the lens, because I my whole entire life has been interviewing, because I've been a journalist. I've been reporting on our Indigenous people in our communities, talking about resilience, talking about victimhood, talking about everything, talking about culture. But what I haven't done is turn the lens on the people who work with us or intersect with our lives and say,
Yeah.
what do you see that's making our lives worse? Because I know that the Canadian audience, once they hear those people, they won't be able to deny it anymore.
They'll pay more attention also, I think.
They'll pay more attention. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by PCL. PCL is a group of independent construction companies that operates throughout Canada, the United States, the Caribbean, and Australia. As one of the largest contracting organizations in North America, PCL completes more than $11 billion in work annually, building projects that shape communities. The company's 100% employee ownership model fuels a culture of commitment for clients in the buildings, civil infrastructure, heavy industrial, and solar market. PCL's teams are proud to build with and learn from Indigenous communities in a number of places in this land. Learn more and watch PCL build at PCL.com.
What has the reception been like since?
It's been
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, it's been overwhelming. We have people from all walks of life emailing us, calling us, asking us to show it to their friends. They want it in university classrooms. They want to use it to teach teachers.
Mm-hmm.
They want to use it to teach people who are in the justice system or
Yeah.
doing anti-Indigenous racist training. People have said that people have reached out to some of the people in the film, have said that I never knew that you witnessed or experienced something like that at your work, like I saw, and it broke me, and I didn't know I could do anything about it.
Yeah.
It's been so non-Indigenous people are connecting with each other to say that they have similar stories, which is really
Yeah.
powerful because I think the silence around um, tolerating and seeing the oppression within your institutions and systemic racism is also traumatic for non-Indigenous people.
Yeah.
Like, when it comes to apartheid, because we still have a race-based system like we still are under the Indian Act. That's like a segregation, right?
Yeah.
Um, and Nelson Mandela always said that the apartheid there like hurt the non-black people as much in their lifetime as the black people in some ways because it would warp your mind and brainwash you that humanity could be wiped out or humanity could change,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
What advice would you give to up and coming Indigenous content creators,
Oh, yeah.
and storytellers and producers, directors, Indigenous people that are coming up in this area,
Um,
in this field?
I mean, it's better now than it's ever been to tell our stories. I think we
Yeah.
have more control. We have more, our communities are more media savvy, and so there's not when I started out, people were still in my community, my family were still like, be careful, like you do what you say and you put on record. And I still keep this in mind. Like what you put on record and put out to the world can be used against you. There's a lot of fear, like when I was young and I used to ask a lot of questions and do radio
Yeah.
and tape and there was still a lot of fear that this stuff can be. twisted on us, right? And now,
Yeah.
since we've had APTN for almost 25 years, we have had all these Indigenous film festivals.
Mhm.
We've had Imaginative that turned into Indigenous Screen Office, who now supports and gives millions of dollars out for storytellers to tell their stories now.
Mhm.
It's better than it's ever been because we have control over that whole entire system.
Yeah.
And that there's such a media savviness, I think, with all generations now, that we're confident in telling our stories, and maybe even the ones that are a bit scary and the ones that are a bit I'm not saying tell all our secrets or our private our internal knowledge, but I think we're starting to get to this place where we know that it can benefit and create bridges with the rest of the society. It can create bridges within each other.
Hmm.
Our communities are way more connected with this media and social media online, which has created a lot of Indigenous excellence, I think. Now we're at this caliber where we're offering really, really high end storytelling
Hmm.
capabilities.
What's this with Johnny Appleseed?
Oh yeah.
There's a novel coming out or something. You got
Oh,
any updates on that?
it is a novel. Johnny Appleseed's a novel, and it won CBC Canada Reads in 2021.
Yeah.
And I've Stories First. My company has optioned the book, and we're still working on putting together our second script, actually.
Wow.
We definitely are revamping and re-energizing this production, and we hope that it's going to be working with some up and coming Two Spirit folks. It's a Two
Yeah.
Spirit novel, right?
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. It's a
it's
great.
interesting because Johnny Appleseed to me is a character. It's a not
It's
a
an
character.
American.
An American.
Yeah,
It's not real. Well, maybe it is. Maybe the story is real. I don't
It's a
know, but
faux. Yeah. It's a tale.
it's a tale. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think so. The American the iconography, or the American character, that has nothing to do with the book.
Okay.
The book is a two-spirit book about this one guy named Johnny, who his nickname's Johnny, I guess, but he is from Pegasus First Nation, and he is living on the reserve his entire life, but he goes to the city and he tries to travel with his group of friends. This triangle ends up being sort of a love triangle, and they try to figure out, you know, trauma and the city and how to hustle when you're a teenager, and culture shock of being in the city for the first time, and
Yeah.
survival and dependence on each other. Uh, and it's a coming of age story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you like when you're producing a documentary or a film with characters in it?
Hmm.
How do you go about finding the right people to play these parts?
Oh, you mean casting for
Yeah.
the, yeah. Well, there's like a whole industry based around casting. So if you get your script together and then people like it and funders like it, you have to get the funds in, and you can kind of have it can kind of start where the director that you get on the project has some ideas about what the character is and who he's seen before, like who they have seen before in the world, and if he or she wants to have an actor that they pursue. Sometimes they get stuck on those actors, but usually they hire, and the producers, hire a casting director. And so people
Hmm.
just specialize in casting
Right.
directing.
Yeah.
So there's agents you have to get around, there's people who are assigned. So you can't just contact them directly. You need to go through their agents because there's a whole protocol around just working
Yeah.
with actors.
Is
And
there
then
like a pool of names that you draw from or
every agent, so a casting director has a relationship with all the agents in the
okay.
country
Yeah.
and all the agents in the Canada and the US.
Yeah.
And that casting director is well known, and if they have a good reputation, then people will answer their calls. And if
Right.
you're brand new and you're green, people might not answer your calls. The great
Yeah.
thing about the Indigenous film community is that we kind of already know our talents. Like if you've been in for a while, a couple decades, like myself, then you kind of already have relationships and people know who you are.
Yeah.
But the casting director's jobs are to make that relationship, and they end up helping you bargain and helping see when their availability is, sending in their tapes, or there's not, because since the pandemic, there's not really in-person casting that much anymore, unless it's something like student films. But people usually do all of their casting now over Zoom, which is it's a bit limited. It's a bit limited for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can call people and they make videos. You give them what
Hmm.
you call sides. Sides are just little portions of a script.
Yeah.
And they put themselves on video and then you watch them.
Oh,
And
okay. Okay.
yeah.
I'm gonna throw a couple of names at you and
Oh.
see if you know them.
Oh, I don't know if I'm gonna pass this game, but okay.
Kelly Saxberg,
No, I don't.
filmmaker, documentary.
No.
No, you
No,
don't know
I
her?
don't know Kelly. No, I don't.
Okay, this one you'll know. Anna Lamb,
I know of Anna Lamb, but Anna Lamb doesn't know me. I
the
don't think.
Grizzlies, the
Yeah, yeah,
Grizzlies.
yeah. I know who she
Yeah,
is.
she was on
Yeah,
the
but
Grizzlies. Yeah.
she doesn't know me. I know who she is.
Okay, all right.
I'm not saying I'm
You know what
famous
she
in
is?
any way.
Yeah, okay.
I'm mostly a
We also
producer,
had,
right? I'm mostly a producer, and producers like hide behind the red curtain. We don't necessarily get out there. But I know the people who made North of North, and I know some of the actors on there.
yeah.
Yeah, and some of the crew I know on there.
Okay. You know Tom Jackson?
I know who Tom Jackson is, but I don't
You
think
know
he was one of
Errol
them.
Kinnison?
Ah, Errol. I'm actually good friends. I'm good friends with the Errol's family, and I knew him because I was living in Saskatchewan. He was part of this
Right.
artist collective I was part of.
Yeah, yeah. He's quite active. More so in the music area
Yeah,
now.
he
Yeah.
gave me my Saskatchewan nickname,
Which is what?
Sparkplug.
What?
Yeah, if you tell him Sparkplug, he'll know.
Okay, talk to Sparkplug. I'll tell her. Tell
Yeah,
her.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, it's been really nice talking to you. And one last question about your thoughts on reconciliation. When you hear that, what comes to mind? How do you? What's your feelings on that?
It's a hard one. I think that word is so loaded now, hey? It's so
Yeah.
loaded with our expectations and our wants and our desires for a better relationship, I think, in this country together.
Yeah.
It's a really tough one. I think at the beginning it was injected with a lot of hope because we thought that the timing was really short for healing, that we were just gonna the TRC was gonna release, everybody was gonna really read all the volumes, understand what happened in this country, and then fix everything.
Yeah.
And I don't think it doesn't work like that. It took 8 years to go through the TRC. We see now a bit of a backlash
Yeah.
against against the residential schools findings,
Hmm.
and also against the unmarked graves. It's a really contentious time in the world right now. We have a lot
That's
of
right.
misinformation being spread around.
It's all over. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that really gets in the way of reconciliation.
It kind of, we see the things that are going on in the world today
Yeah,
and what Canada's trying to do. It's kind of going against the grain, I think, in a way. And it's
they
almost
are.
scary to see, the developments that are happening around the world, the wars
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and the misinformation that's being passed on to people, you
Yeah.
know. And,
And through social media. There's a
yeah,
lot of
and
misinformation everywhere you look now.
yeah, and it creates a misunderstanding, a huge misunderstanding. So,
I,
yeah,
I think I think there's a room there's somebody, maybe it was Jesse Wente. It was somebody who said that reconciliation is actually would mean that we were had conciliation in the first place. So maybe we
right.
should call it conciliation
Yeah,
and just start from there. But the
yeah.
truth has to come first, and so that's why we did this documentary. We still think that the truth and going against that misinformation has to come before, and we have to all start from the same place of truth, or else we can't get conciliatory with each other and we
Hmm.
can't have conciliation. So that's, and we, like, Cindy Blackstock's a hero in our, like, one of the heroes in our film. There's a couple, but like really bringing forward a look of the new world and what can happen for kids, and like kids' future being better and having a chance in this country. And I think there is a chance. She's pretty smart. She's really smart, about how she goes after the next generations in order for them, because she's like, this racism and this the tolerance of not understanding each other is going to go away with all these new generations coming up. Hopefully that's the thing that turns is they'll hopefully these kids live in a new world where there was not ever those disinformation and negative feelings about each other. And I think kids, right? Kids are
Mm-hmm.
they don't really want that kind of world
Mm.
ahead of them. So
No.
we can invest in the future and
Yeah.
and try to keep moving forward in a positive way. And I think there's a lot of, Canada's so mixed. Like we're a mosaic. I know the whole mosaic thing, but we're so mixed. I feel like whenever I talk to folks about how Indigenous folks have been treated in this country, they always know in their head, they're like, oh, that's like this in this country, or we have that's like the way these people were treated, or my people were treated in my country. Like there's always somebody in some country who paid the brunt of um, advancement, or were on a different caste system, or were on a different social status. Like
Yeah.
we're not the only country in the world that has this. So I think that there's like a lot of opportunities to bridge with newcomers and immigrants and those folks because they actually get it quicker once they're explained, I think,
Yeah.
you know.
Well said. Thank you, Leena. I've been talking to Leena Minifie from British Columbia. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much, Gordon. It's a pleasure.
Okay. Be rich. Hey, we see.
Thank you.
Roots and Hoots is a podcast project produced by the Legacy of Hope Foundation. For episode show notes, please visit the podcast description and make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. For more information about the work we do, please visit legacyofhope.ca. And now, a word from our sponsor. Ayaya songs are about our histories. Ayaya is an Inuit-owned firm that tells our stories in many languages across Canada. They are experts in publishing children's books, usually in syllabics, and they do large multi-language projects like the reports of the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Commission. If you need help getting your stories into classrooms or homes in Cree, Inuktitut, or other Indigenous languages, check them out at ayaya.ca. That's ayaya.ca. Ayaya is a proud sponsor of the Roots and Hoots podcast.